I literally just submitted my ELAT. Well, it's not really an ELAT because it's not for Oxford, but for Cambridge, the English Literature Admissions Test. They don't actually call it that anymore, I'm aware of that. I'm literally looking at my submission status right now, submitted for grading. I just did it. So I am going to tell you how I prepared for this exam and think I did really well with such little time. So I got told that I had an interview and therefore an admissions test on Wednesday. It is now Tuesday. So I had less than a week to prepare. So first of all, what did I do? I cancelled all of the stuff that I didn't need to do. I literally stopped thinking about coursework, stopped thinking about upcoming mocks, stopped thinking about homework. Literally tunnel vision on this, because this is obviously way more important. You need to prioritise your time. I got work off early. I got rescheduled one of my meetings. So I'm going to walk you through what I did with such little time to prepare. I made notes about what they were saying. I watched 2 or 3 videos, I think. Additionally, there's like some online articles and stuff. Then I went past paper hunting. That's the second thing that I did. And I printed out 4 past papers. I actually found out that a lot of the ELAT papers are incomplete. So a lot of them will have these things like unable to publish due to copyright reasons. So just check that before you print them out. I think there's only like 3. Yeah, there's 3 that I could find which were complete, which was the ones that I did for my practice. So I also wrote down on this piece of paper all the stuff that I wanted to do before the exam. So I do A-level language and A-level literature. In A-level language, there's a meanings and representations question on paper 2, question 3, which is comparing to, and obviously it's unseen articles. So I looked at my past questions of how I tackled that. I wrote down what I did well in blue, what I could do better in red. And also with literature, you have an unseen question, so I looked back and saw like what did I do. I didn't write much for it. What did I do well, what did I not do as well. So also on my list was do 1 to 2 practice runs timed, do 3 to 4 goes of practicing looking and close reading, revise critical methods. That changed as I went on, but it's good to have a rough guide of what you kind of want to be doing, what you need to focus on. This was one of my essays that I went through and I kind of wrote down what I did well, what I needed to do better. The ELAT is used by both Oxford and Cambridge up until 2022, because I think either 2022, 23 or 24 they had a massive mistake with the paper at Oxford and they stopped doing it, so there's no admissions test anymore. But for Cambridge they still use the paper, but it's the same layout of format, it's all the same. It's basically you get 6 unseen extracts all linked by theme. You go through and pick any 2 of the extracts and compare them in any way which seems interesting to you, focusing on features of language, structure and style. So close reading is designed to help show them how familiar you are with close reading and how skilled you are at looking at unseen material. So for example, I did this paper and it's helpful to write down your timing. So for example, it took me 12 minutes for my general read through all this material, 10 minutes for my close reading of the one text I was going to do, which only led me 7 minutes for my other close reading, 7 or 8 minutes. I did find quite a big block with doing it, like I felt perfectionism block, I think. And then this was the second run through I did, and I wrote all these down on Google Docs, printed them out and annotated them. In the exam, that all the material is online, so you are able to print it out as long as you destroy the extracts after. However, I didn't print it out when I did it just now. I just made some notes whilst I was reading it of kind of how I wanted, like my points basically, like a piece of scrap paper, and then I destroyed that after. For example, these are like my annotations that I did, and I found that annotating them on paper was good, but it took too much time. Something I also found was that when I wrote an answer on paper, I found it much better than writing online. I think that's due to the creative flow of things. So let's scrap these. I also printed out the mark scheme and went through and highlighted and made sure I was familiar with what I needed to do. Thursday I spent the day preparing, writing down all the advice and material, which I will relay to you in a moment. Friday I did a practice run. Saturday I did a practice run. Sunday I did not do a practice run, but I spent some time looking at how other people would approach it, because I had just a massive mental block for it. On Monday, luckily this had cleared, I did another practice run, and then Tuesday was my exam. So now what I'll do is I'll run through some critical methods to remember, some tips and where you can find some resources. Look at Physics and Maths Tutor. I'm sure you're all very familiar with it. Go on to it has the university admissions test section. Go to the ELAT section, and there's some model answers there which got like arranged from 21 to 26 marks. I think you need about 25 marks to pass technically, because it used to be the two examiners would mark it, give you a mark out of 60, and then divide it by 2 to give you your mark. I don't know if they still do this, but it is out of 30. So always like include the term Lexis. I'm an English language student, so close reading is what I am best at. I find it really good, so that this was good for me. But if you're not sure about terms, use the term Lexis. It sounds much more sophisticated than words. Semantic field of joy, including Lexis such as gratitude, happiness and comfort, that kind of thing. 6 extracts, and they'll range from probably like the earliest there will be is from the 16th century up to obviously present day. You don't get any extra marks by adding critical theory, or you don't get any extra marks by choosing to answer the oldest one. So and they're all linked by this theme, so do not be looking to see how you can compare them, like for example in the meanings of representations paper. For if you do language, you'll know about that. You don't need to know kind of like, oh well, this text uses metaphors, but this text, I need to find a text that also uses metaphors. Literally just pick the 2 texts that you find most interesting and that you will have the most to say about. It's also good, I found when I just did it, to pick simple texts which you can delve into better, because if you choose complicated text with a range of lots of different points, let's say you have 6 points for it, you're going to get bogged down and you're going to end up blurring your points together and your argument won't be concise and clear. Pick a text that you have 2 to 3 points about. I wrote 2 points in my exam, but the first time I did it I didn't even get through the first one, because obviously it's 2 comparative points, you need to add both texts in your point. So there is a YouTuber who said the method of doing 3 reads, 1 read to be general, 1 read to be close, 1 read to be super close. I tried that method, it didn't work for me, but that might be something you could do. Other themes they've had in the past, they've had the theme of dance, theme of food, theme of poverty. So really take your time, because you get half an hour to read, an hour to write, and then a half an hour to submit. Take a lot of time to plan and be clear about your points, because that's what I really struggled with when I was practicing. I'd get all my points jumbled up together. The YouTuber also said insight comes from clarity, which I think is an interesting point, but they're looking for passion. Also, take note of sentiments which are expressed in strange ways. Ignore the standards of your exam board and write fluently and elegantly. You're not here to tick AO1 box, AO2 box. You're here to show your passion. And like I did this thing where if I thought something was interesting, I put it is interesting to consider. So that's something you could do. I mean, I don't know what mark I'm going to get, but They try to pick texts that you don't know already. So try and pick texts that you don't know, even if you do know. Let's say, for example, they did Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin and you knew that text. Try not to pick it because they're looking for... Because that way you're going to risk writing everything you know about the novel. So try and pick material you don't know because that will keep you confined to the extract, and that's also what they're looking for. So it's about, like, trust your intuition a bit, be, like, creative but condensed, elegant and clear. So some of my critical methods, that's all my advice that I wrote down. You've got to think, why do they do this? What is the purpose of them doing it? Do as much practice as you can. It's going to feel terrible. It felt terrible and I didn't want to do it. I had so many mental breakdowns over doing it, but it means that now I was able to sit down at my laptop and do it well because I was used to the discomfort. So get used to the discomfort of doing this. That's the biggest advice that I have. Stay focused to, the question. Don't just be narrating everything that happens in the extract, which I did struggle a bit with. Show, like, active control and involvement of your writing and of the text. Show that you understand the text. I'll go through the mark scheme in a second. So you've got critical methods such as, like, Daft Forest Fire, if you've done that in school. You've got form, structure, method, language, like even spelling, punctuation and grammar. I did about one of those in my first practice run of doing it. Got, like, the audience positioning, contrast, and also look for patterns in the text. That's something that I think the examiners like. Think to yourself, what does the author find important in this text? Okay, so in the mark scheme, you to get in band 1, which is 24 to 30 marks. Impressive work which shows a convincing response to literary features and nuances of text. So be really, like, engaged and, it's that close reading that they're looking for. Analytical close reading, perceptive, understanding and sensitive, move confidently between passages, and well-structured argument which is fully developed. Again, this is all found on Physics and Maths Tutor, so that'd be helpful to look at. So you could have, for example, some hesitations, but if you show good comprehension and close reading skills and a generally well-focused argument, you could still be placed in the lower end of band 1. But a well-structured argument which is fully developed. Obviously, this is really hard to do within the time frame, so don't beat yourself up too much if you can't do it. Also, I found that topic sentences and structure was really difficult for me to do. But you've got to think, at the end of the day, if you don't get in, for example, because of this, or if you get a really low mark, then why do you want to go somewhere where you're not ready to go? Because wouldn't it just be more hassle for you, and it'll be harder for you to do something that you're not, like, ready to do because you don't have that knowledge and skill? It's not that you've not got probably talent and passion, which you do, and which is what they're looking for, but wouldn't it be better, for example, to go somewhere else and develop those skills more so that you'll get the most out of your experience there? That's what I'm saying to myself. There was something else I was going to say. It might be helpful to get your teacher to mark any passages that you do. I didn't do this because I didn't really have much time, but that could be helpful. And yeah, at the end of the day, however this thing goes, it's a really good experience. Well, it has been, for example, it's a really good experience for me, because it's made me so much quicker and better and more structured and focused. So it's just the practice is good for you. Make sure you time your responses. It might be helpful for you to, for example, do one run untimed, see where you get in how much time. That's what I would have done differently if I went back and did it now. Yeah, try and do, like, for example, one run where you don't time it, you just write down your timings and you make sure you fully develop and get the best answer you can, and then just practice timing it to refine it and get it to that standard, because I didn't really have a standard when I was doing mine. It only came much after, when I'd gone through all of my, like, uncertainty, so I'd recommend doing that. Okay, so that was a whistle-stop tour. I was trying to get as much information and speak as quick as I could, just brainstorming all this information while it's fresh in my head. And yeah, best of luck, and I hope this has helped. I'll link any YouTubers or any references down below or at the side. Bye!